In the last video, we saw that when Jinwoo found Dongsu's location, he completely destroyed Dongsu and the two men with him. As Jinwoo was beating the living daylights out of Dongsu, Thomas Andre arrives to save Dongsu, but Jinwoo completely disrespected Thomas and sent him flying with a powerful punch. Both parties now stand face to face, ready to fight. I'm not going to force you to like and subscribe, so sit back, make yourself comfortable, and enjoy the epic fight between Jinwoo and Thomas Andre. Thomas gave one final offer. He urged Jinwoo to admit his mistakes and apologize. In return, Thomas promised to spare his life, but Jinwoo's response was nothing but defiance. Without a word, he raised his middle finger. Thomas's fury exploded. His teeth clenched in anger as he glared at Jinwoo. Fueled by rage, Thomas ripped off his shirt, revealing his massive, bulging muscles. His body began to transform. His muscles hardened into what seemed like armor, and a terrifying energy surged into body as his aura became overwhelming. The elite forces of the Scavenger Guild gathered behind Thomas, prepared to follow their leader, also received a boost from Thomas. On the other side, Jinwoo's shadow soldiers, led by Iron, were also ready for battle. Without wasting any second, Jinwoo gave the order for his soldiers to advance. In response, Thomas declared the enemy charge. Both sides immediately rushed toward each other. Charging forward in unison, the hunters from the Scavenger Guild sprang into action. They assembled in line and deployed their shields. Their magical energy infused into the shields, creating a glowing golden barrier in front of them. The hunters formed a solid defensive wall, bracing for the inevitable clash. But Jinwoo's shadow soldiers were unstoppable as they surged toward the barrier without slowing down. The horde of nearly 1,000 shadows met the 100 elite hunters head-on. The ground trembled beneath them as shockwaves rippled through the air. In the midst of the chaos, Thomas Andre pierced through the horde of shadow soldiers with incredible speed, his sights set on Jinwoo. As Thomas charged forward, Tusk appeared in his path. Tusk enlarged himself, stretching his hand to cast Hymn of Protection, summoning a magical barrier. But Thomas stomped the ground with immense force and leaped into the air. With terrifying strength and speed, he blasted through Tusk's head and mocked Jinwoo, saying his soldiers didn't stand a chance against him. If Jinwoo had just pulled out Beirut, Thomas would be dead by now. Anyway, after blowing a hole into Tusk, Thomas landed on the roof of the factory, crashing straight through it and descending into the building. He landed on the ground with incredible force. Thomas surveyed the scene in front of him with a deep frown. His hunters were struggling, overwhelmed by Jinwoo's shadow soldiers. The elite members were no match for Jinwoo's shadow army. Jinwoo stood amidst the chaos. His presence was commanding and calm as he shifted his gaze toward Thomas, who wasted no time and charged forward again, moving with lightning speed. Iron immediately rushed into the middle of the path, assembled his shield, and tried to block Thomas. But Thomas swung his fist and thrust Iron aside, breaking through the front line of shadow soldiers, all while searching for Jinwoo, who had vanished. Suddenly, from one side, Jinwoo approached at an incredible speed. Thomas turned, but it was too late. In an instant, Jinwoo struck first, thrusting the Demon King's dagger toward Thomas's waist. But the weapon couldn't pierce Thomas's hardened skin. Jinwoo's eyes widened in surprise at the resistance of his opponent. Without hesitation, Thomas retaliated. His fist shot forward with tremendous force, slamming into Jinwoo. The impact was so strong that Jinwoo was sent flying upward due to the sheer power of Thomas's blow. Thomas grinned with unwavering confidence and mocked Jinwoo, questioning whether he dared to look down on a national-level hunter. Suddenly, a powerful gravitational force surged from Thomas, pulling Jinwoo back toward him as if gripped by an invisible fist. Jinwoo's eyes widened in surprise as he realized it was psychokinesis. Thomas outstretched his hand, boasting that Jinwoo should feel the difference in their strength and despair. The distance between them closed rapidly, with Jinwoo being dragged toward Thomas. But Jinwoo wasn't one to surrender easily. He activated Ruler's authority. With tremendous force, Jinwoo put immense pressure on Thomas, causing him to be crushed under the extreme weight. Thomas was shocked as he realized that Jinwoo wasn't simply trying to resist. He was fighting back, fixing him in place with that mysterious power. Even as Jinwoo was being dragged toward him, he chose to attack. Jinwoo delivered a powerful punch straight to Thomas's face. The impact was explosive, which pushes him back. Thomas was stunned as he realized Jinwoo's punch had made him bleed. Jinwoo seized the opportunity, and with lightning speed he dashed forward. As he closed in, his voice echoed with mockery, asking what Thomas had said earlier about feeling the difference in their strengths and despairing. Jinwoo immediately unleashed a flurry of punches, each one landing with precision and force. Thomas was stunned and could barely react under the relentless onslaught. Battered and bruised from Jinwoo's relentless assault, he finally admitted to himself that he could no longer underestimate his opponent. His golden eyes flared with intensity as he called for reinforcements. Meanwhile, a convoy of vehicles raced toward the battlefield, following the path of the Scavenger Guild members. Inside one of the vehicles, a hunter demanded Adam White to explain the situation. Adam, who is focused on the task at hand, quickly replied that there is no time to explain the details. Sensing the danger ahead, the hunter warned that they were getting too close to a life-threatening situation, as he could feel the immense mana. Back at the scene of the fight, Jinwoo's thoughts raced. He realized that 4 humans had borrowed the power of the rulers, those who survived the Kamish raid. That means they might be the 4 national-level hunters, and Thomas Andre was one of them. Jinwoo felt a little anxious, but he stood his ground. Then without hesitation, he rushed toward Thomas once again. Thomas immediately pulled his hands back, preparing for a devastating attack. Jinwoo instantly sensed that this attack was deadly. Thomas's fist slammed into the ground with immense force. The impact was overwhelming, shattering everything within its radius. Using a skill known as collapse, Thomas demonstrated terrifying strength as debris rained down like shards of glass. Jinwoo stepped back further, realizing that even from a safe distance, the destructive power Thomas is wielding is astonishing. He barely had time to register his shock before Thomas unleashed his next move, capture. The hunters panicked, shouting for everyone to get away from Thomas. Suddenly, Jinwoo's shadow soldiers were sucked in as Thomas summoned an incredible gravitational force, pulling everything around him toward the center like a powerful black hole. Jinwoo, who was feeling the overwhelming pull, managed to resist by using ruler's authority. Thomas unleashed another devastating attack on Jinwoo, blasting a hole in the factory's roof. Jinwoo managed to evade the attack and landed on a metal bar. Thomas noticed Jinwoo crouching low above him and declared that this time, he will not miss. Realizing the danger, the hunters started moving away from Thomas while carrying the wounded who had been caught in the crossfire. They quickly pulled their injured comrades away from the center of destruction. Thomas stood tall in the deep hole. His eyes were burning with fury as he looked at Jinwoo. Without hesitation, he charged toward him with terrifying speed. However, as Thomas reached his target, Jinwoo stomped on his face with a powerful kick, forcing him down with brute strength. The impact sent both of them backward, but Thomas wasn't going to let Jinwoo go that easily. In midair, Thomas stretched out his hand, activating his capture skill once more, creating a massive gravitational pull aimed at Jinwoo while drawing himself toward him. But Jinwoo didn't evade. Instead, he used ruler's authority to accelerate his own momentum, closing the distance between them even faster. Thomas was shocked as he realized Jinwoo isn't avoiding the attack. He is pulling Thomas toward him with even greater force to take him head-on. Thomas activated reinforcement again. His muscles swelled as his strength increased. Thomas and Jinwoo's fists collided with a thunderous explosion of mana. The impact was so fierce that it shattered Thomas's armor. Thomas was utterly shocked by Jinwoo's strength, but on the other hand, Jinwoo was unfazed, like it's just his everyday warm-up. Thomas was sent flying like a missile, crashing through the factory towers. Jinwoo landed smoothly on his feet, his eyes locked onto his opponent. Thomas roared in pain, his body bruised and battered from the impact as he struggled to rise. But Jinwoo wasn't done yet. Without hesitation, he dashed forward once more. Roaring in anger, Thomas swung his fist with all his might straight toward Jinwoo. But Jinwoo ducked under the blow and dodged it effortlessly. And even though Jinwoo avoided it, the sheer force of the attack still shattered the ground beneath them. Jinwoo rushed forward, grabbing Thomas's horns with both hands. Then he blasted Thomas's face by swinging his knee upward, smashing his helmet with immense force. Thomas was completely stunned by this display of strength, but Jinwoo was just getting started. Meanwhile, several cars arrived at a safe distance from the battlefield. Adam White and the hunter with him were terrified as they sensed the immense magical energy radiating from the scene. The hunter warned Adam to brace himself, as things were about to get dangerous. Suddenly, a figure came crashing out of the factory with immense force, slamming into the ground. Adam's expression turned pale as he recognized that it was Thomas Andre, who had been sent flying from a distance. The hunter with Adam shouted, asking what they should do. Adam frantically said they need to stop them, but the hunter questioned how they were supposed to do that, because Thomas Andre was getting pulverized by Jinwoo. Jinwoo was relentlessly punching Thomas with immense force. Thomas was getting completely dominated as he questioned how a mage-type hunter could possess such overwhelming brute strength and speed. He couldn't believe he was about to lose. After all, he is the strongest hunter in the world, and he will not let this happen. Thomas stretched out his claw and tried to attack Jinwoo, but Jinwoo immediately broke his arm and struck him in the face again. For Thomas, his overwhelming strength was his sole raison d'être, which means his very identity is built upon his immense power. Thomas roared in defiance as he declared, "I am Thomas Andre. You can't take me down." But Jinwoo didn't flinch. His cold gaze didn't waver as he replied, "I told you, didn't I? It doesn't matter who you are." With a powerful elbow strike, Jinwoo slammed the top of Thomas's head, hammering him down. His attacks were relentless, and Thomas was crumbling under the sheer force of Jinwoo's onslaught. At that moment, Adam shouted desperately, begging Jinwoo to stop. But Jinwoo showed no sign of halting. His face remained cold and focused, driven by rage. Each strike sent Thomas reeling. His once mighty body was unable to withstand the relentless blows. His armor started breaking apart under Jinwoo's continuous barrage of heavy punches. Just as Jinwoo charged up another devastating punch ready to end the fight, Thomas, who was barely conscious, parted his lips and admitted his defeat. His body went limp as he accepted that the battle is over. With that, Jinwoo halted his attack. His fist hovered in the air before he finally lowered it and stood silently near the defeated Thomas. Adam was left speechless, witnessing the state of Thomas Andre, the strongest national-level hunter, a symbol of overwhelming strength which had been reduced to a pitiful state. He questioned himself, how many hunters could do this? But was there even anyone else who could? One thing was clear. Once this news will spread, it will send shockwaves across the globe. Adam White quickly called for healers. One of the highest-ranking healer rushed to Thomas's side. While casting healing magic, he assessed the damage. He was completely terrified. Thomas's body is utterly wrecked. Every bone in his body is broken, and he is bleeding severely. The healer realized he couldn't do it alone and needed all the healers. He mentioned that the sheer resilience of Thomas Andre was the only reason he is still alive. Any other hunter would have died multiple times over from such catastrophic injuries. While the healers worked, the rest of the Hunter Association staff was busy evacuating the wounded from the factory. The scavenger guild was in terrible condition. Adam accepted the situation and told himself that considering everything, this was not the worst outcome. Just then, one of the staff members called out to Adam and delivered a grim update that Hwang Dong-soo is no longer breathing, and his heart had stopped. And more than that, Jinwoo had also disappeared. The scene shifts to Korea, where Jinwoo was sitting quietly on top of a tall building, overlooking the city below. He had used Shadow Exchange to swap locations with Beru, allowing him to return to Korea. Meanwhile, Beru was in America, healing Jinho to the best of his abilities. Jinwoo was speaking to someone beside him, a shadow soldier who called him king. Jinwoo looked at him and asked what he wanted. Kneeling before him, the shadow soldier humbly requested that Jinwoo bestow a name upon him. He was a general-rank shadow soldier. As Jinwoo gazed at him, he recalled how he had died because of his greed. With that in mind, Jinwoo suggested the name Greed. He then asked to the shadow soldier, "How about I name you Greed?" while mentioning Hwang Dong-soo's name. That's where we get to know that Jinwoo had turned Dong-soo into one of his shadow soldier.